You're listening to Have You Ever Wondered? It is Wednesday, August 3rd, 2022. I'm Chloe, and the title of today's episode is Zombies! Exclamation point. Or maybe I want to call it Disney Zombies! Exclamation point. I don't know. I'll decide later. Disney has zombies, you guys. Okay, so every so often, the show is a lot of fun for me to write and research. And this was one of those ones where I'm like extra excited to do the work it takes to put all this together. I mean, I love doing this, but sometimes I'm doing a subject that's like challenging or frustrating. Not this one though. This one's cool. So then all the research and preparation is fun, and then doing the show is fun too. A lot of my fave episodes revolve around music. I'm sure you can tell. And a lot of the shows that I get really easily passionate about mention or involve kids. And then just a lot of the episodes in general feature social issues or current events. But this one covers all three, believe it or not. So I'm stoked. First of all, like before we get started, I was doing research last night and just, reading articles, watching interviews, going through whatever. And I saw an interview from a couple people from the main cast. You'll see what that means in a minute. And a couple of them were asked their ages. And one said, I was born in 2001. And the other one said, yeah, I was born in 2000. And I gotta say, it kind of hurt my feelings. They have only ever been alive in the 2000s. Like, oh my word. Okay, I have to move on from that. It just, when I see another adult, I just see an adult. I don't really care how old they are. And these people are adults. I mean, they're playing high school students, but they're adults. And I didn't think like, oh my gosh, they've never seen a year that started with a 1. They've never been alive for it. Anyway, what do you think when I say the word zombies? So, if you're a grown up, like I've been alive for a while grown up, you might think like The Walking Dead. Or if you like zombie movies, you might think like 28 Days Later or Shaun of the Dead. Hilarious. If you haven't seen that, see that. You might even think Call of Duty if you're a gamer or you know one. But if you're a kid alive right now, then that word probably makes you think of the winning upbeat and extraordinarily popular Disney franchise whose first installment was released in 2018. So they're movies that Disney makes in-house and then releases on their platforms: Disney Channel, Disney Now, Disney Plus. And they released a new installment every 2 years since then, meaning that they are now on the third movie of the series, which just came out a couple weeks ago. Zombies 1, Zombies 2, Zombies 3. I was introduced to it because, I'm not a kid, but I play one on TV. No, that's what all these kids say, though. I was introduced to it by Leopard and his sister, but they show me all kinds of kid stuff that doesn't make it out of the kid part of my brain and into the adult side of my life. So why did this one? Why am I dedicating an entire show to a kid's movie? Well, if you watch my stories with any kind of regularity, you may have already been exposed to the first reason why I want to talk about this film series, maybe without even realizing it. But the first thing that I found notable about these films is the music. And per usual, I'm not going to play any of it, but I will link the Spotify playlist to the soundtrack of all 3 movies in the description for your convenience and enjoyment. They hired like real songwriters to write these songs. So earlier this summer, I started getting requests from both kids to look up certain songs for them on Spotify or on YouTube, or they would ask the Google Home to pull up the songs for them, and they were catchy as all get out. I was like, what is this? They were like, zombies. I'm like, I don't know what that means. And then the more they played them, the more I was paying attention to the backstory behind them. I'm like, who is this person? What are they doing? What's going on there? And they were like, I don't know, because we hadn't seen the movies. They were like, we just like the music. They hadn't even seen the films. They just, I guess, came across the music in their online travels or had it recommended by a friend and then showed it to me. And I was like, yo, these songs are good. And they were like, yeah. So we started listening to the soundtracks from all 3 movies pretty regularly. Now, there are 4 species involved in the film so far, which I'm going to get to in my next point, but I'm not ruining anything to tell you that there are humans, there are zombies, obviously there are werewolves, and there are aliens. And so each group has its own sort of musical identity and songs that they propel. And I'm partial to the wolf-led songs. I feel like they get the cooler songs. So ones like We Own the Night and Come On Out. So when you start looking through the soundtrack list from the links. But the human song, Fired Up, I think it's from the first movie. Zombie song, Bam. And the alien song, Alien Invasion, are also really good. But they put Disney has studios. They've done music with all their stuff for years. People know songs from their animated films, from their TV shows. But this is music that I, as an adult who is not a commonplace, who's not commonly involved in Disney anything, I am listening to this music in the car by myself, it has merit. It stands alone without the film. And I think that's really notable. So that's the first reason why I'm bringing it to your attention. The second reason why I'm bringing it to your attention, and probably the primary reason, is the message. So, like I said, when we first started listening to this music, I didn't know what was behind all of it. I'm like, oh, this is a little kids movie. But the more and more we watch these little music videos and listen to the songs, and I'm trying to figure out the backstory, and then one day I said, oh, why don't we just watch them? We could just watch them. We have Disney Plus. It's not a big deal. So, Leopard's sister and I started watching. I don't really love to have her sit for a full feature-length film, but I I don't mind doing films in increments with her because she's pretty young. I'll let her watch, like, I don't know, 20, 30 minutes at a time. Okay, pause. We'll watch some more tomorrow or a couple days from now or next week, the next time we have a little time. And so she and I, in that fashion, worked our way through the first two movies. Leopard was not interested in the first two movies, only the third one, and now the three of us are about halfway through the third one in the same fashion. And the message that came about when we were watching these. So in the first film, you're introduced to the fact that this town that they all live in is, or has been, segregated. Humans over here, zombies over here. And the zombies are forced to wear government issue clothing. They have a curfew. They have to stay in their part of town. They're not allowed to do sort of standard issue things like own pets. They get the worst jobs. And I'm going, this looks familiar. And then once you start watching the film, what you realize is that you're encountering all of these characters on the first day that the high school in the town is being integrated, meaning now the human side of town and the zombie side of town are going to share the same high school. The humans are represented as perfect, and they're wearing light colors, and they're very energetic, and we're the best, and they're in charge, and they're the dominant culture. And then once the zombie kids arrive at the school, they're divided at the school entrance. They're subjected to a substandard learning environment. They are not allowed to participate in extracurricular activities like football, academic clubs, or music. They're constantly being exposed to lies that have been told to the human kids about how dangerous they are. They're nonstop experiencing unfair treatment by authority figures like police and school authorities. Can you guess who they are? They're us. They're me. They're supposed to represent the Black experience in America. So this film series has taken 3, so far, marginalized groups of people and represented them using species. So within each species, our actual in real life racial diversity is fairly well represented, but each species is its own separate entity, and they all have to deal with a particular challenge. And the zombies are supposed to represent the Black experience in America. Now, the main human person is a girl named Addison. And she starts off misled, but she's actually open, warm, accepting, inviting, open-minded. And at one point, while she's on the zombie side of town, which is, of course, run down and sort of distant, darker, she looks around and says, "Are zombies always this harassed? I had no idea it was like this for them." Sound familiar? I feel like everybody, and this film, the first one came out in 2018, but to me that sounds like what everyone sounded like in 2020. What? This is what you've been going through all this time? We had no idea. It's like, welcome to the party. So she meets and then very quickly starts dating, because we're dealing with kid attention spans here. They got to keep the story moving. So she starts dating the leader of the zombies, which is a tall, very humorous bro named Zed. And Zed has a best friend named Eliza. And I think it's really interesting how much they delved into some of the aspects of race relations in America. For example, Zed's entire MO is, let's assimilate and show the humans that we're the same as them. It'll help us make progress. It'll help make our lives easier. Let's be like them. And there are a lot of Black people out there, especially from the older generations, who that was the only way they felt like they could survive here. Let's act as non-black as we possibly can so we can move forward. And to an extent, today, still people feel like they have to do that in certain environments. Whereas his best friend Eliza, who's a tech genius and, for the record, a Zendaya lookalike, is on the opposite end of the spectrum. And she's constantly like, no, I don't want to be like them. Let's start a revolution and then rebuild the society the right way after we destroy all these old mores, And that's an attitude that's starting to become more prevalent now. I'm so impressed by the fact that not only are they representing the experience, but they are representing that different people within the experience have differing ideas about how to move through the experience. Now, because every story needs conflict, Addison's cousin is both the head of the high school's cheer squad, which she is destined to join, and also one of the most other species phobic personalities at the school, aka he's your resident racist, and she is essentially your resident progressive, and they are related. Welcome to America. And so now we have the makings of a movie here, right? We have differing groups, we have conflict, we have an end goal. And the thing that I find so fascinating about this is that this movie is for kids. But with the way that it's written, it's exposing them both to this country's tainted past. And this story belongs to a lot of countries that have colonialism at their heart, or Eurocentric origins, whether or not there was a population there to begin with. And it also looks toward the future by showing them that it's possible to move through these difficulties and come out on the other side more enlightened. They even cover nuances like microaggressions and code switching, which a lot of adults don't even understand. So I'm not going to give you any more clues to the movie. If you want to know what happens, you're going to have to watch it. But that's the first film. In the second film, they add another marginalized group, the werewolves, who are in touch with nature, who had natural resources that belonged to them before the, quote, settlers, which is how they explain it in the intro, arrived in the town, and who, after their natural resources were stolen by the settlers, were banished to a separate part of the town and not allowed to interact with people who lived there. Do you know who they are? They're Native or Indigenous Americans. And so the entire second movie deals with them being reintegrated into the society on the land that belonged to them in the first place, and the struggle that they're going through. And then the third film, which we're not done yet with, a ship full of strangers arrives in the town and starts trying to participate in functions and events that they're having. Now, I didn't catch this, but I read this in an article while I was doing research last night. But in the third movie, the aliens are supposed to represent undocumented immigrants, which is very interesting. And then they also bring in a climate change aspect, because one of the reasons why the aliens are traveling around instead of staying wherever they were from is because their home planet was destroyed because they didn't take care of it. And so now they're looking for someplace else to live. So if you want to take like every social issue that adults are trying to deal with right now, but that ultimately all these kids are going to be left with, these three movies kind of hit on everything, but without the kids realizing that the adults who wrote the films are describing their past and future to them. And so I would say it's something you really need to watch pretty much all media with children anyway, so that you can observe what it is and then explain what's going on. But when I watch it with them, I just point things out, like straight up, like, yeah, this stuff that actually happened here. This school thing with the gates and the substandard and the land thing, and they're stealing resources from people and taking their land and then making them move. All that happened here for real. And to watch the realization dawn on them that they're watching something that's not fictional, but that there are actually people in history who were treated like this is a really important thing for them to recognize, because then later when they take over society, it will already be in the back of their minds it's not okay to act like that. So the third reason, really quickly, is the talent, because you could have this amazing writing, you could have this amazing music, but if you don't have people who could pull it off, then it was never gonna hit. But Disney has this knack for finding people who are beautiful. Of course, all the people are beautiful. We covered that on another show. But they're like all at least triple threats. Everybody sings, everybody dances, everybody acts. Some people are gymnasts. Cheerleading is a big undercurrent in these films, which involves a lot of gymnastics. People are like doing their own stunts. These people are ridiculously talented. And so everything that's being written for them, they're bringing to fruition. So I'm just so impressed. And what is today, Wednesday? I think we're going to try and finish the third movie tomorrow. So maybe I'll mention it in a future show and tell you what I think. But you can also go listen to the soundtracks, like I said, I'm putting them in the description, or you just go watch the movies yourself, because it's worth it. For poetry time, I chose a poem called Allowables by Nikki Giovanni. I killed a spider, not a murderous brown recluse, nor even a black widow, and if the truth were told, this was only a small sort of papery spider who should have run when I picked up the book, but she didn't, and she scared me, and I smashed her. I don't think I'm allowed to kill something because I am frightened. I chose that one, I think for obvious reasons. For one, because if these weren't kids' movies, they'd be a lot more violent. Because if you look at our history, our American history, but also our global history, these people groups interacting has always led to violence. Black Americans had a terrible time here. Indigenous populations all over the world have had a terrible time everywhere. Undocumented immigrants struggle greatly in the Western world, especially. And she's right, you're not allowed to kill someone or something just because its presence is scaring you. You don't even know if it's dangerous or not. And one of the songs I mentioned, Alien Invasion, covers that thought, which is when the aliens start showing up, everyone starts freaking out. And Addison, of course, who's the most open-minded person on the cast, says, well, wait a second. They might be nice. Why don't we talk to them before we start running and battling and flipping out? So if you have kids or you know kids, I would definitely consider adding this to your family movie night. But even as an adult, if you don't feel silly watching kids movies with no kids present, you could watch this and it would be fine. And And if you know me and you need a Disney Plus hookup, let me know. um, yeah, I was so impressed by it, and I still am. I'm gonna go listen to some of the songs when we leave here. So, I hope you have a fantastic day today, and I'll see you tomorrow.